Okay, so the first thing, like I said, I often ask on the exam, you will see this again on the exam, is the function of the digestive system. Ingestion, what does it mean? Putting food in your mouth. Digestion, breaking stuff down. Propulsion, that moving your food. Absorption is be able to absorb, which is one of the biggest key on the digestive system is to be able to absorb. That's our purpose of eating food. And defecation is pooping stuff out, just getting rid of all the stuff that you don't actually need, which is good. Okay. It's not doing what I wanted to do. Okay, here we go. So the type of digestion, you have two types. You have mechanical, which is like your mouth. So eating it, that's chewing, that's mechanical digestion. A churning of stomach, meaning that your stomach keep turning, kind of like think of washing machine turning the clothes, drying machine, same thing. Churning of the stomach, same thing. Action of the bile will squeeze. Think of like a toothpaste. You squeeze the toothpaste or squeeze a mustard or ketchup onto your food. That's what action of bile does. It's when you squeeze that gallbladder and it's split out or squirt out the bile. Okay. And chemical digestion, we're going to talk a lot more about that under this lecture, is breaking things down from a huge molecule to a smaller and smaller and smaller molecule. Okay, so by using different chemicals. Motility, the key word to remember for motility is peristalsis. Peristalsis means moving your food from your mouth all the way down to your anus, to your butt. So that's the huge key is to peristalsis. Okay, peristalsis is moving that food down, the chain. Okay, and secretion, you have different type of enzymes secreting. We'll talk about those. Membrane transport, different places how we transport those as well. So GI tract, it's 30 foot long from mouth to butt. Accessory organs, key things to remember. You might want to remember this. This will be on your exam, so know this for sure. What are the accessory organs? If I ask you in an exam, which of the following is not accessory organ, or which of the following is accessory organ, you should be able to pick that out. Okay, so your teeth, your tongue, anything that's not the main part, not any main track of this track right here. This track from your mouth, esophagus, stomach, your small intestine, large intestine, sigmoid colon, and then anus. Anything that outside of that main tract is considered accessory organ. Your teeth, your tongue, your mouth, your saliva gland, your gallbladder, your liver, your pancreas, all of those could consider accessory organs. So you should know this. This is I gave you a little exercise in class for you to do to kind of follow the track of the GI system. This should help you with both your lecture and your lab. Your unit 2 lab exam practical will come up next couple of weeks. And it's important to know the organ from the cadaver. There are pictures of organs on the cadaver that actually representing these that you should be able to pick it up. So trying to visualize, know these picture of where things are. There is a video of dissection. I want you to watch that video so you will learn those picture from there as well. Okay, on your track, you have these layers. You should know this layer, so put a little star on here. You should know what these 4 layers are. The mucosa, which is the inside layer. Submucosa, this is where your blood vessel and your absorption actually occur. Muscularis, that's your muscle moving down the food. You have 2 muscles. You have the circular one and the longitudinal one. You have 2 of them run together. So You need both of these to contract to actually move food from one side to the other. And serosa is the reduction of friction, which is on the outside. On the outside, your serosa. So now we're gonna go from your mouth all the way to your butt. Different section from your mouth to your butt. So oral cavity, which is your mouth, you have your cheek, your lips. Your cheek is to help keep your food inside your mouth. Without your cheek, think of a skeleton on a Halloween skeleton cartoon that just chewing, and then food would be going all over the place because there's nothing. They don't have cheeks to actually keep the food in. Same thing with your lips. Imagine, when you try to eat or drink something huge quantity, you use your lips, you close up your lips, so you try to contain stuff inside your mouth. Otherwise, things are just blurred out. Okay, your tongue, you have sensory system there. You have 5 senses of food: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. Okay, so you have 5 sensory of food on your tongue. Your teeth, the key term to remember is mastication. Mastication means chewing. That's chewing, mastication. So you use your teeth to grind the food. If you look at our teeth, we are not carnivores. We don't look like dogs. Our teeth are not even close to dogs or tigers. We're not truly meant to eat a lot of meat. We do not eat a large quantity of meat. So our teeth are more herbivore, where we grind the vegetable for a long period of time. So that's where we grind. Okay. Your saliva in your mouth produced from 2 big glands, which is the parotid gland, which is right here, and you have the submandibular gland and sublingual gland. Submandibular gland and parotid gland, both of those are on the cadaver on the lab exam. You might want to remember that for your Unit 2 exam. The parotid gland on the side here, and then submandibular, which is right here. Both of these actually produce saliva. Majority of your saliva are water, 99.5% of water. The rest of them you have like amylase, mucus, and lysozyme, and bicarb. So very little stuff. You want to know Amy, amylase or Amy? Amy likes to break down starch or carb. So think of Amy likes to eat carb, breaking down carb. Okay, mucus. Anytime you have mucus, is to trap pathogen, so it could come out. Like when you have a cold, you use mucus to trap those viruses or bacteria, so you could blow it out or cough it out. Lysozyme, like Lysol kills pathogens. Lysol kills bacteria. So lysozyme, same thing, is an enzyme that kills your bacteria and your bad guys. Bicarbonate, bicarb is to buffer. Bicarb is to balance things out. Bicarb, when things become too acidic, bicarb will help you make sure that things will goes up in terms of pH, not become too acidic. Function of saliva, you should know this. So put a circle on this, a star on this. So moisten the food, neutralize the bicarb. You have the amylase to break down. Amy breaks down carbs. Lipase breaks down lipid, which is fat. Lysozyme break down bacteria, viruses. Mucus to trap down the food together and also kill the pathogens. Key term to remember: the moment you put food in your mouth, we now no longer call it food, we call it bolus. Bolus, B-O-L-U-S. So now is your bolus in your mouth. Okay, no longer call it food. Once you start putting that food and start to chew the food, we don't call it food, we call it bolus. So it's something to keep in mind. You have two glands, intrinsic gland and extrinsic gland, which is intrinsic is inside, extrinsic is mean outside. Okay, so intrinsic is basically gland that create in your local oral cavity inside your mouth. Extrinsic is on the outside of your mouth, which is your parotid and submandibular gland. This is where you produce your saliva, outside of your mouth. Swallowing, there are two phases of swallowing. You have the buccal phase when you swallow. Buccal is you purposely swallow inside your throat. So your food, buccal phase. Buccal means cheeks. Buccal means cheeks. So when you chewing, when you finish your chewing and you start swallowing, it would be the buccal phase. Buccal phase is going down. You purposely putting your food down. Pharyngeal esophageal phase, this is involuntary. You're not knowing when you do this. When you swallowing voluntary, you start closing up stuff. Your epiglottis start to fall back to block your larynx, so the food can't go inside your windpipe. So it would go down to your esophagus correctly. Okay, so epiglottis works automatically when you start to swallow. That's involuntary. Your soft palate start to rise to block your nasal pharynx, so food doesn't go up to your nose, which is kind of a neat thing. You don't want things to come out and hanging out through your nose. Okay. Esophagus is this extending tube from your mouth here all the way down to your stomach. Again, if you remember from my class, the food travels from your mouth all the way to your stomach, takes about 2 to 3 seconds. 2 to 3 seconds doesn't take that long, so every time you swallow, it goes down very, very quick. So there's no stopping. So this is, think of it like a high-speed train. High-speed train. Like Shinkansen in Japan, going from one city to another city very quickly. There's no stop. It's just one continuous movement. So you just want to put that food down as quickly as to your stomach. Okay, no holding, no stopping anywhere. Okay, so that's esophagus. The key things to remember is this right here, the lower esophageal sphincter, LES, lower esophageal sphincter. This is a sphincter that right before the stomach, right on top, right here, on top of the stomach. Okay, so this little guy preventing the stomach acid, preventing the acid inside the stomach to come out and play in your esophagus or come out and play in your mouth. You don't want your stomach acid to come out and play in your mouth or your esophagus. Why? Your stomach acid is so corroding to the point that it will eat up everything. It will eat up all of your intestine, your esophagus, your mouth, even your teeth. People who are bulimic, oftentimes you could see their teeth because they throw up their stomach acid all the time in their mouth. So you can see their teeth is corroding by their stomach acid. Okay. Function of stomach. The huge portion of your stomach, one thing to remember is your stomach is to break down things. Breaks down your huge portion into small little tiny components. Okay, so that's the main purpose of the stomach, is you're gonna break up the food. So they do a couple of things. One is churning the food, keep turning the food to break it down, and also you liquefying the food. You breaking into a little mush in a sense, tiny little mush. That's what the stomach does. Okay, it doesn't do a lot of absorption. We're gonna talk about that later on, but doesn't break down and absorb a lot of stuff. Okay, the only stuff that will go in is your water, aspirin, and some lipid soluble drug. So some lipid might go in here, but for the most part, just to keep in mind, there's no absorption here. Okay, no absorption of carb, protein, or fat here. Remember the term of food. Remember food. What do we call food inside your mouth? That's right. It's bolus. It's bolus. So the food in your mouth is bolus. As it comes down, it's continue to become bolus. But when that bolus start to mix with the gastric juice, when the bolus start to mix with that gastric juice inside your stomach, now we no longer call bolus. We call it chyme. 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 Okay, so that's when the bolus mix with stomach juice. Now we call it chyme. You might want to know these, like top of your stomach is called fundus. You like to have fun on the top. Some people like to have fun on the top. So fundus. Uh, you like to have fun on the top of the body. Body is right here. Body is right here. So this is the body of the stomach. You like to have fun on the top of the body, which is right here. It's called fundus. And if you have too much fun, you may end up with cardiac. Right in front of the fundus in the body is the cardiac region. You might have a heart attack. Yes, if you have too much fun on the top, you might end up with cardiac heart attack. So region right here. So LES, which is right here, kind of right by the cardiac region. LES, lower esophageal sphincter. You have the fundus, you have the body, you have the lesser curvature, which makes sense. It's lesser side of the curve, and you have the greater curvature, the greater size of the curve. Okay, the flooring of the stomach, we call it rugae. Rugae. It looks almost like up and down, like a little valley. Up and down, look like a mini Grand Canyon, I would say. You're looking at it, look kind of almost like brain as well, look brain-like. Okay, brain-like. At the end of this, you have the sphincter here. This is called the pyloric sphincter. Pyloric sphincter. So you have two sphincter. The lower esophageal sphincter prevent food from going up to your esophagus. Pyloric sphincter preventing food to go into your duodenum. Okay, into your small intestine or duodenum. So if this doesn't work, if your pyloric sphincter doesn't work, your gastric juice would go into your duodenum or your small intestine, and your small intestine could have a hole or ulcer or sore. That's called the duodenal ulcer. Okay, duodenal ulcer. So if this doesn't work, things start to go in here and start to eat up here. The stomach juice could eat up your small intestine. Okay. So your stomach wall, you have the gastric gland, gastric pit. You have different layers of your muscular layers. Put a little star on this page. You need to know everything on this page. The first one, this is how your stomach actually works. How your stomach works. You have the first cell is called the goblet cells. Goblet cells. This is where you produce your coating, your alkaline coating of your stomach. Okay, without this coating, your stomach will eat itself. Without this coating, your stomach will eat itself. So esophagus doesn't have this, your tongue doesn't have this, your mouth doesn't have this. So if you keep throwing up all the time, you keep throwing up, the stomach juice that you have in your stomach will start burning every single other organ, because other organ does not have this cell to actually provide a coating, protecting the inside of your stomach. This is called the goblet cells. They produce mucus, alkaline mucus, to protect the inside lining. The regenerative cells, this is very important because since it's so low in terms of pH, very high in acidity, it starts killing cells very quickly. Cell doesn't last that long because you live in a high acidic environment. You get killed off very easily. So therefore, you have this cell to keep replenishing your stomach cells all the time, making these new cells. Okay, making these new cells to keep your stomach healthy. Parietal cell. Parietal makes hydrochloric acid an intrinsic factor. parietal. These guys, the main guy, the number one guy in your stomach, because this guy makes hydrochloric acid. What does hydrochloric acid do? What does hydrochloric acid do? It breaks down all the food. It breaks down all the food in your stomach. This is one of the most acidic substances on this planet. Very low in pH. It's about pH of 2. Very acidic. Okay, so this guy will break down food. So this is the number one cell in your body, in your stomach, to actually break down all the food. Intrinsic factor, we're going to talk about that in the next slide. Sheath cells, they make pepsinogen. Pepsin, P for protein. Pepsinogen, P for protein. They breaks down protein. They breaks down protein into little component. P for protein. Pepsinogen, Pepsi. Think of Pepsi, think of protein. Okay, pepsinogen breaks down protein. Pepsinogen will convert into pepsin. Pepsin breaks down protein. Okay, pepsinogen is a precursor of protein breaker, the guys that would break down protein. So pepsinogen has turned into pepsin. Pepsin therefore go around and breaks those protein down. Okay. Last cell is called enteroendocrine cell or G cell. G cell, not G string, but G cells. Okay, so G cell, what does it do? It produces something called gastrin. So G for gastrin. So what does gastrin do? Gastrin actually stimulate hydrochloric acid. So this guy, gastrin, help you make more of this hydrochloric acid guy. So this is a hormone that support the parietal cell, like a cheerleader for the parietal cell, saying, hey, keep going, make more. I want more of that hydrochloric acid. Makes more. So gastrin will actually make parietal cell to secrete more hydrochloric acid. Okay. Function of hydrochloric acid, what does it do? It breaks down absolutely everything in your stomach. It kind of make it mushy. If you watch this video, this nasty little cheeseburger goes into little tiny mush. So make sure, just remember the hydrochloric acid just make things nice and soft, nice and mushy. Okay. It helps with other things too as well. Hydrochloric activate pepsin, makes pepsinogen turn into pepsin. Remember, what does pepsin do? P for protein. It breaks down the protein. Okay, hydrochloric acid also break down the tissue and plant cells. This is even a sign that we need to eat more vegetable, because we do supposed to consume more vegetable than meat. We do need to break down that plant cells. Also help convert iron. Also help kills any pathogen. pH of 2. All the bad bugs will die. You actually do have a lot of good bacteria in your stomach. Lots and lots of hundreds of bacteria in your stomach that you do need to actually help survive. Intrinsic factor. Very important to remember. This will be on your exam, so something to remember. One parietal cell secrete intrinsic factor. People who don't have the intrinsic factor, they cannot absorb B12. Okay, you need intrinsic factor to absorb B12. If you don't have that, then you don't have the B12. If you don't have B12, then you actually will have something called pernicious anemia. We talk about this in the endocrine section. Pernicious anemia. You have pernicious anemia if you don't have B12. And if you don't have B12, you look at what's going to happen. You're going to have memory problem. You're going to have brain nerve problem. You're going to have tingling sensations on your fingers and toes. Not good kind of tingling, not when you're in love, not when you feel a little tingling from love. No, that's completely different. This mean that you start having the nerve damage. Your myelin sheet start to become damaged. You start feeling the tingling sensation on your fingers and toes. Not good. Okay, so pepsin secreted by chief cells. Remember, it's secreted by chief cell as pepsinogen. Pepsinogen then converted into pepsin. HCl converts pepsinogen to pepsin. Okay, and what does pepsin do? P for protein. P for protein, yes. Pepsin for protein. So it breaks down your protein into smaller amino acid. Protein, amino acid, peptide, all the same thing. Okay, polypeptide, all the same thing. Protein is huge. Polypeptide smaller, amino acid even smaller. So it's just different size of it. So that's just a fancy little name of a different size of protein, but all of it is protein. Okay, so P for protein, pepsin breaking protein, big protein, to a smaller protein, to even a smaller protein. Okay, from a protein polypeptide to polypeptide chain, which is smaller, and then to amino acid, where is the smallest component of your protein. But it technically breaks down protein. Okay, we talk about some of these stuff. You have talk about rugae. Rugae is the flooring of the stomach. The flooring of the stomach. This is to help stomach to actually expand its side. So your small stomach could actually expand to 4 to 5 times its size. Okay, so 4 to 5 times its own size. So if you remember, let's say you go into this all you can eat, you think you could do it. You're like, let's do it. It's so yummy. You're gonna eat tons and tons of food, and you start eating your second, your third, your fourth plate. Then all of a sudden you feel like, oh no, it's come up to here now. I'm ready to shuck it all up. Okay, so your stomach is just technically a size of your hand, about the size of your hand when it's nothing in it, it's flat. This guy could actually expand 4 to 5 times its own size. The moment you fill it with it, these rugae could stretch. These rugae can actually stretch pretty big. So when the professional eaters when they train for this, they oftentimes eat a lot of cabbage. Not a lot of calories. Cabbage has a very low calorie, almost none, but they could actually practice stretching that strong stomach. Their stomach could stretch 6, 7, or 8 times its own size. So they could eat that tons and tons of food, like Joey Chestnut, who could eat, 69, 70 hot dogs in 10 minutes, just shoving those guys down. Um, and his stomach could expand to like a huge ball of fire. That's what he will feel the next day when those things trying to get out of his system. Okay, won't be fun. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about 3 phases. Okay, 3 phases of your stomach secretion. The first phase is called the cephalic phase. Cephalic means head. Cephalic is head. Cephal is head. Cephalic head. So even thinking about stomach, just thinking about stomach alone could actually make you become hungry. As you're sitting watching this right now, thinking of food, thinking of, Cold Stone. Too bad it's closed. Many places not closed yet, but Cold Stone, you think of all these wonderful places, wonderful restaurants you want to go, Pizza Bianco. Um, you start salivating, you start feeling your stomach start secreting those juice. Just thinking, just smelling those food alone. Okay. Um, Maybe you guys are experiencing this when you order stuff online, when you're trying to, order from Grab, from all of these Uber Eats, watching food, like, oh wow, that looks good, this look good. You look at all of these menus, your brain start to actually secreting your juice in your stomach, just thinking about food alone. Okay. Second phase is when the gastric phase, which is when your stomach get that food inside your stomach. When the food comes down, what does it call again when food inside your mouth? Yes, that's right, bolus. Bolus come down into your stomach. Okay, when that bolus come down to your stomach, that's the gastric phase. Start to mix with your gastric juice. When you start to mix with your gastric juice, what is that called? That's right, that's called chyme. When your bolus mix with your gastric juice, then that bolus no longer called bolus, we call it chyme. Okay, so the presence of food inside your stomach, that's when your stomach start to stretch out, and that's when you start to stimulate other hormones like gastrin, acetylcholine, and histamine. The last phase is intestinal phase, is now moving from your stomach into your small intestine. That's why we call it intestinal phase, because it's going from your stomach down into your small intestine. Okay, so there are hormones that actually secrete in this phase: secretin, CCK, and GIP. We're gonna talk about all of that, okay, right now. So first one is CCK, cholecystokinin. You need to know this. So you really need to know this. Okay, CCK. So the first one is CCK. CCK is released in your small intestine. The first part of your small intestine is called duodenum. So CCK, C, D, C, D. So CCK released in D, duodenum. Okay, then where does that go? Your CCK, once it's released, it goes to your liver. Tell your liver, hey, yo, you're my guy. You're my guy. You're gonna produce a bile for me. You're gonna produce a bile for me. Okay, so CCK tells your livers to secrete bile. Bile, it looks like this. Okay, so your bile looks like this, and the bile is kind of greenish color, dark green color. That bile will store in the gallbladder. Okay, bile store in the gallbladder. Gallbladder does not make bile. Gallbladder does not make bile. Gallbladder is the storage of bile. Who makes bile? Liver makes bile. Then these biles then will go into the small intestine. The bile will go into the small intestine when the food is there, and then bile will emulsify, which is a fancy term for breaking down fat. Okay, biles will break down fat. Okay, biles will break down fat. So CCK tell your liver to produce bile. Once after your liver produce bile, it's stored inside the gallbladder. Gallbladder release it when there's food in it. When the food inside your duodenum, once it release, it breaks down fat. Okay, biles breaks down fat. So bile for fat, bile fat, bile fat. So biles break down fat. So some of you actually had your gallbladder removed. So people have gallbladder removed. Okay, so bile breaks down fat. So for those of you who actually don't have the gallbladder, that doesn't mean you actually don't make any bile, because gallbladder doesn't make bile. What makes bile? Liver. So therefore, when you eat a lot of fatty food, if you don't have gallbladder, you still have some bile, but it continuously releases into your small intestine all the time. So therefore, when you actually don't have the gallbladder, and you eat a huge amount of French fries, huge amount of fatty meat like this, you will pay for it. You will feel it. You feel bloated. You feel like gassy. You feel like, oh no, it doesn't break down. So you're going to poop out all that fat. So you're gonna have what we call a fatty stool. Your stool will become floaty, little flotation device in your toilet. Okay, you could hang on to it. You won't drown because it will be floating around on your toilet all the time. Okay, so without bile, your stool, you will have a lot of fat that you cannot ingest it into your body, and it will just come out. Okay, so just a side note, fun fact. People in the past think that fat will cause you to be fat. They actually don't want to eat any fat, so they actually um, have put certain substance in your food so that you won't actually ingest fat. You just poop all the fat out. Okay, poop all your fat out. We went this as far as like putting in Pringles, putting in a lot of food or snacks that we had in the past. But as it turned out, it actually doesn't stop people from gaining weight, but in fact, it just make your stool become fatty stool and also cause bleeding inside your small intestine. You may have a bloody stool too as well, not just fatty stool, be fatty and bloody stool, both. Uh, but now we know that fat doesn't make you fat. What makes you fat is glucose, sugar. So the more you eat sugar, the more you will get fat. The less you eat sugar, the less you become fat. Simple facts. Okay. Next hormone is called secretin. Secret. Think of secretin. Secretin is released in, again, duodenum, which is in your small intestine. What does secret do? Let's say you put this deodorizing right here, right? What happened what's the reason you put there? Because to prevent the smells. Because this area has a lot of high acid. The more you exercise, the more stuff you become highly acidic. Okay, so you put secretin or secret there to bring down that acid. You don't want it to become acidic. So wait a minute, you said, why is your duodenal? Why is your small intestine become acidic? Hmm. Why is it your small intestine become acidic? Well, you think about it. What's the name of the food while it's mixed with gastric juice in your stomach? That's chyme. When chyme is finished with your stomach and now moving on to your small intestine, that chyme has a lot of gastric juice inside it. That gastric juice is highly acidic. So your duodenum doesn't have the coating like your stomach does have. Remember, what's the cell that secrete the coating? Goblet cells. The goblet cells secrete that mucus for that coating. Your small intestine or your duodenum doesn't have that goblet cells, so there's no coating there. So they have to come up with some way to balance out those highly acidic chyme, because they still need to break down those food to absorb into your body. So, but if they keep breaking that down, they're gonna break down themselves because it's too highly acidic. So your body does, your duodenal does, is secrete the secretin. Secretin control your pH, control your odor, and control your help with your small intestine, so your small intestine could actually last longer. It helped with bicarbonate to neutralize those acids. And last but not least is from your small intestine. It's called GIP. GIP is gastric inhibiting peptide. Inhibiting, if you think of that word, means stop. Okay, stop. So gastric inhibiting peptide. That means we are done. We are cutting everything off. So let's shut down the whole factory. It's when it's time to turn things off. So when this guy is released, say no mas, no more stuff from your stomach. So it's telling your stomach to shut itself down. Hey, you're done your job. Chillax. Go back, relax, have some margarita. Or not. Just relax. You don't need to do anything else anymore. Just relax. Okay? So that's what you do with your GIP. GIP release. Your stomach shuts down. Everything stops. Tell the factory to stop. Now we're good to go. Let me handle the rest of these. You guys done your job already? Just relax. Your stomach, just relax. Good job. Okay, so function of liver, you should know these. I will ask you this on your exam. Produce bile. What does bile do? Emulsify fat, breaks down fat. Okay. What does it do again? Also help with blood plasma protein, store nutrient, detoxify blood. The list go on and on and on. Your liver does everything. Your liver does everything more than you ever know. So okay, and gallbladder. What does gallbladder do? I'll mention this, and you will see this on your exam. Gallbladder is store bile. Does it store bile? Okay. What does bile do? Biles emulsify fat. Bile emulsify fat. Now we're going to look at pancreas. Pancreas, we already talked about pancreas before in the past in the endocrine section. Pancreas does a couple of things. One, release two very important hormones that actually has to do with food as well, but those are hormones. Okay, so that's the endocrine section. One is insulin, the other one is glucagon. Insulin breaks down sugar into your blood. Glucagon put your sugar back into your blood. Okay, so those are the two hormones we already covered before. Now we're going to cover the exocrine stuff, things that your pancreas do. One, it has bicarb, produce sodium bicarb. What does bicarb do? I wonder. Remember bicarb? Bicarb help lower down the acidity, help balance out that acidity. So make things less acidic. Same thing with water. Trypsin. Anything you see trypsin, chymotrypsin, pepsin, trypsin all sound the same, and because it does the same thing, it actually breaks down protein. Okay, trypsin, chymotrypsin breaks down protein. Lipase, lipid, breaks down lipids. Amylase, Amy likes to break down carbs. Nuclease, break down nucleus. So these, if you eat meat that has nucleotides, nucleic acid, which is part of your nucleus, you break those down. Peptidase break down P for protein. So P for protein, so peptidase breaks down protein. On this list, 3 of them breaks down protein. Peptidase, trypsin, chymotrypsin. So this is to show that we do need protein. But again, people often think protein is just come from meat, but not necessary. There's a lot of vegetable protein as well. So we do need more of those than the animal protein. The only one that truly show that we do break down animal protein is this, which is nuclease. That show that you do need that to help break down the animal protein. The rest is for vegetable proteins. In your small intestine, you have circular fold, villi, microvilli, so different type of folds in there. These are the finger-like projection to help increase the surface area and help absorb food. These are the villi here. The villi is this whole thing, and you have the microvilli, which is a little tiny hair. So think of a finger-like projection. So your villi is like a finger, like this, and your microvilli, think of it like little hair around your finger. So for those of you who are hairy, really hairy around everywhere. So you think of, you have your finger and you have your hair around the outside. So that's what happened with your small intestine. You have these guys to, the key term is to increase the surface area, so you could actually absorb in more stuff, absorb in more food. Okay. Again, we talk about the peristalsis. What is peristalsis? Moving of that food. Moving of that food. Okay. Moving of that food. Now we're going to talk about different food groups. Food groups that actually breaks down at different location in your body. The first one is carb. So there are three main groups. Three. Little selfie. Three there. So three main group. You have the carb. Okay, carb is the main one. So carb breaks down in your mouth. How does it break down in your mouth? In terms of chemical, not mechanical. Chemical, you have the amylase. Remember, Amy likes to break down carb. Amylase break down carb in your mouth. Okay, then it goes to your stomach. Your stomach have your hydrochloric acid in your stomach that breaks down carb. Might want to pay attention to this, because this right here is part of your essay or your short answer question. You need to be able to understand this and answer these. And the digestion, the absorption, you also have the pancreatic amylase. Your pancreas also release another amylase to break down the carb. And then you absorb through the brush-border enzyme. Brush-border enzyme. So these, you will break down the carb even more, make it really small, so then they could absorb right through and go into your capillaries. Okay, so this is the slide that you have, but I break down into those things. So salivary amylase is in your mouth, pancreatic amylase is in your pancreas, release in your small intestine, and then brush-border enzyme also in your small intestine, and then you'll be able to absorb inside your small intestine. Fiber, the rest of it doesn't digest, doesn't absorb, then it go out into feces. Okay, so the absorption of carb, you have the secondary active transport coming into the epithelial cells, and then you have the facilitate diffusion. Not a lot of work, going into the capillaries and then going to the veins, and then go into your liver. So every food that you absorb, the first plate that it will technically go is your liver. Your liver will be the kind of like a main hub. Like think of a main train station, the New York Central Station. That every train would go there to stop there first before it goes anywhere else. Okay, so that's what happened. Second food group is protein. Your mouth, all you do is mechanically chewing those protein, doesn't break anything down. Protein inside your stomach, you have something called pepsin. Remember what cells release pepsin? Pepsinogen? Yes, it's sheep cells. Sheep cells release pepsinogen that converts into pepsin. Okay, so that breaks down protein. And then the final stop of protein is in your stomach. Your stomach, actually your small intestine, have tons of stuff like trypsin, chymotrypsin, peptidase. All of these breaks down protein into little tiny droplets of protein. Okay, brush-border peptidase, break it down and put it into your blood. You have the secondary active transport as well, but instead of diffusion, just like the carb, you have an active transport at the end going to capillaries as well. So protein is a little bigger, harder to break. Carb is very easy to break. That's why most of the time we recommend to eat carb. Good carb, not bad carb, but good carb. Your body uses it quicker because it's easier to absorb. a lot easier to absorb. Last one is fat. Okay, lipids, fat. Fat doesn't break down into your mouth whatsoever. You're welcome to watch this video, very interesting video to watch regarding fat digestion. Your stomach doesn't absorb any fat either. The only place that your fat breaks down is into your small intestine, and the only thing that breaks down your fat, couple of things break down your fat. One is lipase, pancreatic lipase, and then you have the bile salt. Bile, again, biles release from, create from, yes, liver. Biles actually makes by liver, store in the gallbladder, release it to break down fat. Okay. Breaks down into what we call simple diffusion. Simple diffusion. So biles break down into fatty acids, simple diffusion into the cell. The fat itself, by itself, we call it, the simple form of fat is called triglyceride. Triglyceride. There's actually 3 different glycerol part comes together to make tri, which is 3, triglyceride. These guys, if you remember, does fat travel? Fat is lipids, right? Lipids will have a hard time travel in things that have water, right? Even hormone, in order for a lipid-soluble type of hormone to travel into the water, into the bloodstream, anywhere, it needs it needs some transport protein to actually taxi it, move from one location to another. So same thing with this. So triglyceride by itself cannot travel in water by itself. It will be a hard time. So what it does is actually have these coating, these little tiny protein coating to cover it up, to cover up the fat, make it like little tiny, tiny ball. Okay. So this is called chiromicron. Something you guys might want to know, chiromicron. So this is chiromicron is a casing. Think of it like a protein casing, protein case. Think of a sack, expandable sack that you could put lipids, lard, a fat that does not dissolve in the room temperature. So you could put lard inside this little expandable bag. Okay, the more fat you put in it, we call it the higher density protein. The less fat you put in it is called low density protein. And last one is the nucleic acid, vitamins, and minerals. Those are the 3 other category aside from water. The nucleus is breakdown by nuclease breaks down all the nucleus stuff like DNA, RNA, anything that has to do with nucleic acid, which is those things. And vitamin, you have A, D, E, K, that's a lipid soluble vitamin. You have B and C, those are very simple diffusion. B12 also with intrinsic factor we talked about. Last stop is your colon, your large intestine. Your large intestine, these are the function of your large intestine. You should know this, I would hope. Really highly recommend knowing this because you're going to see that on your exam. Okay. The main function of this is to absorb water. The main function. Think of this, if you don't poop a lot, if you constipate it, you hold your poop for 2, 3, or 4, or 5 days, even more or longer. The longer you hold it, those feces become harder and harder and harder. Okay, so the water will reabsorb back. For those people who don't like to poop all that often, think of this: the longer you hold your poop in, you're supposed to secrete. You're supposed to poop out those toxins. You're supposed to poop out all those waste that you have. the longer you hold it, the more of those water and the more of those things that you're supposed to poop out, you reabsorb that back inside your blood. You reabsorb that back inside your blood. Oh, just imagine trying to drinking your own urine again. That's what you're doing. Technically, you holding your poop in, you reabsorbing, you technically drinking from your urine, you drinking all the bad stuff, then you peeing it out. You're supposed to get rid of it. You're not getting rid of it. You reabsorb back into your body. Okay, so we recommend, as a doctor, as a physician, recommend people to poop on a regular basis. You need to get rid of those things. Let it go. Let it go. You don't need it anymore. Yes, you don't need it anymore, so just let it go. Okay? Your colon also have literally thousand, tens of thousand, 100,000 of good bacteria. You need a good bacteria in there. The better colon health you have, the more bacteria you have, the healthier you will be. Okay? Some people have a not that good bacteria, and you end up all kinds of GI distress. You have, you have infection, you have diarrhea, you have constipation, all kinds of stuff all the time because you don't have a good, healthy colonies of bacteria inside your colon. Okay, and those bacteria could help you produce vitamin K. This is called symbiosis. So these bacteria will help reproduce vitamin K inside your small intestine, your large intestine. Defecation, pooping stuff out, good thing. You have two sphincters. You have two sphincters. Something you need to know, and it's actually on your lecture exam and also on your uh, lab exam as well. You have two sphincters. One is internal, inside. This is the inside one, and the external one. The inside is involuntary, so easy to remember. Internal, involuntary. Internal, involuntary. External is voluntary. This is so when the poops come down, the internal will tell you like, oh, since it's involuntary, it will open itself up. If you have poop there, it will open itself up right away. Okay. The external saying, oh no, I'm in the classroom. Oh, I'm outside in the public. I cannot go. For some women, you need to go and do it at home only. So I cannot go. I need to go home right now. I need to go poop at home. I cannot poop outside of my home. So your external is working, is holding it, making sure that your poop is in there. But as we age, guess what? Your external become a little loose. Loosey woosey. So external become little loose. When the poops come down, your internal again spring open. You need, well, I need to go. But your external, as we age, can't really hold it together. So then things become little messy. Yes. Become a chocolate rain. Things start to leak out a little bit. So that's why we have Depends. You buy Depends now on your shelf, the market near you. So sphincters. We talk about sphincters, several sphincters throughout the whole entire GI tract. The first one is LES, which is right by your stomach. Okay, right by your stomach here. This is to prevent the acid reflux to go up. Pyloric is between your stomach and your duodenal area, so prevent acid to go into your duodenum. Ileocecal valve. Ileocecal valve is the valves between your ileum, which is the last portion of your small intestine, and cecum, which is the first portion of your large intestine. Okay, so ileocecal valve. So the valve between your ileum and your cecum. Good. And then you have two sphincters that I just talked about. The internal, involuntary. External is voluntary. Peristalsis, again, movement. Last section. Okay, so digestive disorders. So these are all the diseases that we need to talk about really quick. First one is the celiac disease. Celiac disease. So celiac disease is the key term to remember. This is the people who actually are born with this. This is an autoimmune disease. It's run in the family. It's genetics. You can have malabsorption problem. This you can see this early on, even in infants, childhood. You're gonna see this, and mainly is they have problem ingesting or digesting gluten. They cannot break down gluten. If you ask, what is gluten? Gluten is actually a protein that in a lot of food, tons and tons of food that you eat, even natural food. Naturally, you have these gluten in a lot of these food. So these folks really have problem with that. So if they eat gluten food, they will have bloating, diarrhea, vomiting, all kinds of bad ailments comes to them. So autoimmune disease, they cannot eat gluten. If they do, they'll feel diarrhea. You have bloating, diarrhea. So people who relatives, like I said, it runs in the family. Also with type 1 diabetes or thyroid disease can have this as well. IBS or IBD, same thing. Irritable bowel syndrome or irritable bowel disease, same thing. Okay, one is a syndrome, one is a disease. This is the key term to remember is a alternating between diarrhea and constipation. So they have diarrhea 1 week, they have constipation another week, they have diarrhea again 1 week, they have constipation again. So going back and forth. Very common with men and women, more women than men. And it's actually known with this inside your head. That means stress is psychological. Usually there's no physical physical manifestation. There's not genetics. There's no gene attached to it. All it is you have too much stress. If you have lots and lots of stress, you can get this. You can actually have IBS. Okay, you can have IBS. Next one is peptic ulcer. Peptic ulcer is you have ulcer or sore inside your stomach. Peptic is referring to your stomach. Okay, your stomach. You have sore in your stomach. The key term to remember is H. pylori. Every time you see this term, every time you see this disease, think of H. pylori. This is a specific bacteria. Look like this. This little lovely guy here. This bacteria, H. pylori. So for your test, if we ask you peptic ulcer, what causes peptic ulcer, you want to pick H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori. Okay, H for short. We often shorten their genus name, not their species name. So the genus name has become H. pylori. So symptoms, if you have this, okay, first, you will feel pain the moment you actually see food, smell food. Remember, the moment you think of food, you secrete the gastric juice into the stomach. When you create that gastric juice in the stomach, you're gonna feel that burn. Not Bernie Sanders, but feeling the burn inside your stomach. You're feeling that pain. The moment you start eating the food, once the food gets into your stomach, you feel better. You feel much better because the food will go coat your stomach for you. The food will go coat your stomach for you. Okay, so you will feel the burn, that burning stomach pain before before the meal, and also after the meal, after a few hours after the meal, but not during the mealtime. During the mealtime, you put food in there, you'll feel great. Okay. You might have that burn again during the night. Okay. So we recommend you take antacid to help with that. And there's actually all kinds of medication to actually help with peptic ulcer. Uh, and one of them is also less stress. We used to associate peptic ulcer with stress. So in the 60s, 70s, if you tell doctors that you have peptic ulcer, the first thing it will tell you is you need to go relax because has to do with stress. They will help you and try to relax you. Okay. Hepatitis, you have A, B, C, D, E. So you have 5, the main ones. We actually have more than 5, but the main 5 is A, B, C, D, E. Anything with the vowels will actually come from the bowel, which means oral fecal. So A and E is oral fecal. That means if you go to the restroom, you don't wash your hands. You don't wash your hand properly. You clean your butt with your tissue, but you have some gift left on your hand without cleaning it, and you come and cook. Those lovely stuff gets into the food. The person eat it, then you actually get it. You get that virus. So hepatitis are viruses, okay? So and that cause inflammation of your liver. Inflammation of your liver. You will have vomiting, you have diarrhea, you have jaundice, so you have really bad diarrhea, and your body will become yellow, including your sclera, your eye, your white part of your eyes become yellow. So it breaks down your stomach, so your stomach cannot breaks down bilirubin. When your stomach breaks down, cannot break to bilirubin, then your body will actually have a higher level of that, and your body become yellowish tint. Okay. We do have vaccine for A and B. You could get A and B vaccine for hepatitis A and hepatitis B. Next one is diverticulosis and diverticulitis. Losis is a condition. Losis is condition. Litis is inflammation. Okay. Lotus condition, inflammation. Losis does not have any symptoms. Often asymptomatic, no symptoms. Okay. Litis, if you have litis, you have infection, you have inflammation, infection, so therefore you will have symptoms. You will have bloating, you have cramping, constipation, you could have pain. Okay, you could have pain. You have, what this is, the key term is pouches, outpouching or pouches. These guys, you have pouches everywhere. See these holes, little tiny holes, these are pouches. Okay, so majority of Americans over 65, more than 50% of people over 65 have diverticulosis. You have these pouches everywhere, just based on the food that we eat. We have tons of these pouches. Most of the time, these pouches, there's nothing wrong with them. Nothing wrong with them at all. But every now and then, when feces start to get stuck in there, when you have more buildup of these feces in these pouches could actually get inflamed. So then you have diverticulitis. So you have diverticulitis, you get inflamed, you could have a rupture. That's bad. That's very, very bad. You have painful, you have things sticking to you, you're gonna have a lot kind of other problem. You have sepsis, so all kinds of things. So this is one of the reasons why we do colonoscopy for people who age over 50 years old and up. Every 5 years or so, we do it to make sure you don't have too many pouches, and we make sure that these pouches are in good condition, or whether it's infected or not. So last one, I believe, is lactose intolerance. So technically speaking, this should not be a disease because majority of people in the world have this. This is one of the few things that actually majority of people have it, which is should be considered as a norm. Think about that. So if people have it, it's a norm. So people who don't have it technically is the one that have the disease. But people always consider this the other way around. So lactose intolerance is when you eat a lot too much cheese, too much dairy products. If you have too much dairy, then you're gonna go. You're gonna let it go, let it come out. So you feel a little stomach swirling, and then boom, it's just gonna go all out. Okay. Um, Normally, most people, we do secrete lactase, a very small amount of lactase. If So technically speaking, if you eat about two spoon or 3 spoon of dairy a day, so cheese, milk, or anything that has to do with dairy product from cows' milk, uh, that should be sufficient. Ice cream, if it's only a couple teaspoon a day, you should be okay. But the moment you actually go past that, your body cannot handle it. Your body doesn't have enough lactase to break it down. When it doesn't have lactase to break it down, therefore, your body flush it out. Your body's just flushing all of this out. You're gonna have a little diarrhea, just flushing it out. As simple as that. Okay. The reason I mention this is the majority of people. Technically speaking, majority of people in the world, more than 60% of the world population, have lactose intolerance or is lactose intolerant. So, how is that a disease if majority of people have this? If you go to Africa or even Asian country actually reported up to 90%. 90% of people actually have this. In Thailand alone, 99% of the population in Thailand, which where I came from, have lactose intolerance, which means that's the norm. So if you go to Asian country or you go to even in African country, um, a lot of their product, their milk product, actually have very purposely put lactase in there, so to help people be able to digest milk a lot better. Try those milk with you if you travel. Try it out to see. Tastes a little different than the milk here. A whole lot different than the milk here for sure. So try that out. Okay, let's conclude um, let's conclude the PowerPoint portion. Um, let's conclude the PowerPoint portion of the digestive system. Okay, so you need to know all of that. Those are the basics. Also, just want to add this in. These are the 5 questions that you will see on your short answer of the test. This test have a short answers that you have to answer. I will pick two, two out of these 5. Two out of these 5. Okay, so spend time trying to come up with the answer. Okay. We talk about this first question. Describe how proteins are mechanically and chemically digested and then absorbed into the body. Where does each digestive step take place? Where does what enzyme are involved, and what pH environment do they require? What are the result of monomers at the end of digestive process? How and where are the monomer absorbed? Okay, so break it down to each question, small chunk. First one, describe how protein are mechanically and chemically digest and then absorb in the body. Mechanically digest in your mouth, right? So what is that called? Chewing? What's the medical term for chewing? Start with the M. Not masturbation. is mastication. Okay, mastication. So chewing, that's a mechanical portion. Okay, is protein. Going back to your PowerPoint, does protein digest in your mouth? Is there anything in your mouth digest protein? And the answer is none. There's nothing in your mouth digest protein. So then you go to your stomach. What 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 happened in your stomach? Mechanically, your stomach turn around to churn to actually help breaks down protein. So that mechanically, chemically, what happened in your stomach? There's only one thing that actually breaks down protein in there. That's pepsin. Pepsin breaks down protein in your stomach. What cell secrete peptin? Pepsin secrete by, that's right folks, sheath cells. Your sheath cells secrete pepsinogen. Pepsinogen then convert into pepsin. Okay, good. So that's another chemical that digests, breaks down protein. Okay, again, and after your stomach, you go into your small intestine. Your small intestine, this is where your protein breaks down a lot. Furthermore, you have trypsin, chymotrypsin, peptidase. All of those breaks down protein. So three hormones, three enzymes: trypsin, chymotrypsin, and peptidase. All of those released by duodenal and breaks down protein. Okay, so where does each digestive step take place? We already talked about the mouth, the stomach, and the small intestine. What enzymes are involved? We talked about the enzymes already. Pepsin, pepsinogen, trypsin, chymotrypsin, peptidase. All of those are the enzymes. What pH environment is usually in an acidic environment? And result of monomer, we break everything down into, if you remember the term, amino acid. You break into amino acid. Amino acid is the smallest type of protein. You go from the peptide, polypeptide, which is long protein. Poly means long, many protein, many chain of protein, and then you go into peptide and then amino acid. Okay. What are the result of monomer, which is amino acid? How and where are these phenomena absorbed? They actually absorb inside your small intestine. If you go back, you do need active transport to be absorbed on both sides, coming in and going into your bloodstream. Okay, so that's the first question. Second question, the same question. Wow, but it has to do with carb. Carb. Again, carb breaks down in your, mechanically breaks down in your mouth because of the chewing, mastication. What else does the carb do? Break down in your mouth? Remember who else is in there to break down carb? That's right, folks. Amylase. Amylase. Break down carb in your mouth. How about your stomach? Your stomach, you have hydrochloric acid. Make it nice and soft. Hydrochloric acid. Anything else in there that breaks down carb? No, siree. Then it go from your stomach to your small intestine. Your small intestine. Your small intestine release amylase. Again, your small intestine release amylase, pancreatic amylase, to break down the carb into smaller ones. Okay, and that's where your absorption occur. Okay. Your absorption occur. Okay, so digestive step take place in your mouth, your stomach, and your small intestine. What happened in each place? You guys should be able to come up with that. What enzyme? We talked about enzyme. Lipase in the mouth, lipase in the small intestine, and brush border enzyme. that also breaks it down as well. pH environment is acidic. The resulting monomer at the end was the smallest molecule of sugar. The answer is one single unit of sugar is called glucose. Glucose. So the smallest particle of sugar is glucose. How and where are those absorbed? They absorb in the small intestine. Small intestine absorb in jejunum and ileum. Majority in ileum than jejunum. How they absorb? They actually have the active transport coming in, but in passive transport going into the bloodstream. So active and passive. Next one, imagine the liver were no longer able to produce or secrete bile. What impact would this have on digestion, on ingested food? Why? Be sure to include appropriate terminology in your answer. So imagine that your liver were no longer able to produce or secrete bile. First question you have to ask yourself, what does bile do? What does bile do? Bile emulsify fat. If you cannot emulsify fat, what's gonna happen? Well, if you cannot emulsify fat, you're gonna feel bloated. You cannot break down fat. You're gonna have a stomach pain every time you eat fat. Because why? Because it cannot be break down. If it cannot be break down, your body cannot absorb it. Therefore, you have to poop it out. So you're gonna have a fatty stool. Remember the flotation device in your toilet. Your stool become a flotating device in your toilet. So fat, you cannot break that down. You're gonna poop it out with your stool. So fat in the stool, fatty stool, become floating device. Okay. Again, similar question. This one is regarding to bicarb. What does bicarb do? Bicarbs balance pH. B and B. Bicarb balance pH. Make things less acidic. Make things less acidic. Okay. So if you don't have bicarb, your body will become acidic. You're going to have ulcer inside your small intestine. You're going to create holes inside your small intestine. You're going to have hole inside your mouth. You're going to have holes everywhere because you don't have this bicarb to make it less acidic. Okay. Last but not least, name and describe the layers of the wall of the GI tract. What are their function of each layer? Unique of these layers, small intestine. There's actually a slide on there. You should go back and look in the PowerPoint. You will see that on your PowerPoint. And it describes each function of the layer on your GI tract. You have mucosa, subrosa, submucosa, you have muscularis. So all of those, you should know what those sections are about, and we have to describe what those sections actually do. Okay, I will pick two. Again, I will pick two out of these for you to answer. So make sure that you should be able to answer them. Okay, and that's it for this video. Sorry, a little longer than I was hoping, but please feel free to watch it, study from it again. Once we starting next week, starting April 6th, everything will be online, meaning that you will have to study on your own, watch these videos to help you understand. Just think of the time that you watching the video is time you in class. If you have questions, let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer any question or help you along with these concepts. But watch these videos. Your Unit 3 exam will be the first week, at the end of the first week of that week. So make sure you study this I would recommend studying this before then, looking at these videos before April 6th. That's it for this time. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys next video. Stay healthy. Have a wonderful week, folks. Bye bye.